Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to another video on this channel. Make it an amazing day. Make it. It's your choice. It's your decision what kind of day you're going to have. Good morning, good people. Good morning to all my friends around the world. Welcome, soul family. Welcome to the sacred grove. We're under the sacred trees by the sacred creek having a sacred moment. Sacred. If we didn't have memories, we wouldn't know we're here. Let's break it down. In this aspect, what I'm about to say, there are two dimensions in life. Two dimensions. One dimension is knowing when to do something. The other dimension is knowing when to allow something to happen. When to do something and when to allow something to happen. If you have these two dimensions in your life, you're a gifted person. You're a gifted person. Basically, we could say, we know how to bring up a child. But obviously, we could say, we don't know how to bring up ourselves. What do I mean by bringing up ourselves? If we go through life just doing, and we don't allow things to happen, the end result will be frustration, being anxious, even upset. I don't live life on life's terms. I live life on spiritual terms, okay? Living life on life's terms means, and I tried it, I've done it. Living life on life's terms is an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. The whole world becomes blind and everyone needs dentures. I live life on spiritual terms. Why do I live life on spiritual terms? Is because I know life isn't always fair and people aren't always kind. So how will I react? Why do we feel this need to make things happen? We don't have restraint. We don't have patience. Sometimes we even force things to happen because we don't have restraint and we don't have patience. have you ever baked bread? Or have you watched someone bake bread? Or do you even know the process of baking bread? You need flour, you need yeast, and you need patience. That process involves water at a certain temperature. You put in a package of yeast, mix it around with a fork until it kind of bubbles. You start adding your flour, not all at once. You make a ball then. You put it in a bowl. You cover it with a towel. Let it rise. Preheat the oven to a certain temperature. You take the bread out of the bowl. You knead it. You knead it. That process involves doing, and that process involves allowing. You need to allow the bread to rise. You need to knead it properly. Then you put it in the oven. And if you're the type of person that is able to allow things to happen, you have an idea when the bread is going to be done baking. But people that don't have patience and restraint, they'll go to the oven door every 5 minutes and open it to look to see how it is. You heard that saying, a watched pot never boils. As I mentioned before, two of the gifts of meditating every morning are patience and discipline. Restraint, even. I get up in the morning, grab a coffee, go to the bathroom, grab a coffee. I go sit on my deck for 5 to 10 minutes or more and just let my thoughts flow. I allow the process to go on. I don't force it. I don't time it. And then when my thoughts become still, I ask myself several questions. What do I have to do? What do I need to do? What should I do? What's most important? I settle on one or two, maybe three. And then I sit there still in silence, unencumbered by distractions. I don't get up and turn on the TV. I don't get up and check my phone. None of those things. I don't go to technology immediately. I'm not looking for a stimulation first thing in the morning, that dopamine hit. I go to the bathroom, grab a coffee, and sit on my deck in silence. Are you aware? Let me back up. Once we make a decision that we want to make changes in our lives, that means we've become aware of something. can't get out of the situation we're in using the methods, concepts, and ideas that got us into it. We need new information, new knowledge, new wisdom. And for me, I sought that wisdom from the masters, other spiritual people, other mystics, shamans, new information. And you can have all this knowledge, you can have all the knowledge that you want, but if you don't put it into practice, if you don't apply it to your life, see what works and what doesn't, knowledge means nothing. So we get to this point in our lives and we say, okay, I've had enough of the nonsense, I've had enough of the drama. Feeling guilt, shame, and remorse didn't fix it. Blaming other people didn't fix it. What to do? When we're faced with a situation and we look at it, let's say from the angle of the serenity prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, the wisdom to know what to accept, and the wisdom to know what to change. The serenity prayer. And if you have a specific situation, the best time to sort it out is, as I've mentioned before, first thing in the morning. Don't turn on the TV, don't go on your phone, don't start doing all these activities to distract yourself or to put your mind in overdrive, overstimulation, stimulating the five senses automatically in the morning by, let's call them, bad habits. So you have this situation, you sit in a place unencumbered by anything to disturb you. You got up, went to the bathroom, went to this place. You could call it a safe place. This is my sanctuary here. I call it a sanctuary. And you sit down, you review what it is you need to give attention to, and ask yourself, what can I do about it? Maybe I could do this, this, or this. And sometimes, maybe a lot of times, there's nothing you could do about it. So you just allow things to proceed. When you can concretely say there's nothing I could do about it, you just let it proceed. You allow it. You allow it. Someone might say, well, what do I do in the meantime? If you are that person that understands those two dimensions, when to do something and when to allow something to happen. Remember I said about baking the bread? Part of that is doing, part of that is allowing. If you're gifted with those understanding those concepts, you can proceed with grace. You can proceed with grace. What does grace mean? Whenever I want to know the definition of a word, I either look it up in a 1951 Thorndike Barnhart dictionary, or I investigate the etymology of it, the origin of the word, when was it first used, or a phrase. When was it first used? Who used it? In what setting was it used? Most times, the foundations of words are found in the Greek language. So today we're just going to go here to this dictionary and look up the word grace. You sat in meditation, you looked at the situation in front of you, you may have made a decision, I could do this, this, or this, and in making that decision, we don't enter into it compulsively or impulsively. We study, think about, and conclude, here's what I could do, and if I do this, these are the possible outcomes. I have a saying. This came to me a long time ago in meditation. And this is the saying. Sometimes the right thing to do isn't always the best thing to do. And sometimes the best thing to do isn't always the right thing to do. If you're traveling down a highway and you come upon a car accident, you're the first one there. Let's say you get out of your vehicle, you walk over, there's a man behind the steering wheel kind of propped over, blood gushing out of his neck. Probably you're going to say, sir, are you all right? You're going to report that there's an accident you came upon. The guy leans back and God's blushing out of his neck, and he says to you, how bad is it? Am I going to die? What do you do in that situation? Well, you should say, I'm not a doctor, or I don't have medical training. I've reported the accident. I'll stay here with you till an ambulance arrives. You don't say to the person, oh man, it looks bad. You're dying, pal. You're dying. Oh, and by the way, let me grab that nice watch you're wearing, and do you have a wallet on you? Let me grab that too, because you've heard stories about people stealing things, even undertakers at the funeral home. I'll take that for you. The best thing to do is to be honest in that situation. Are you an honest person? Sometimes the right thing to do isn't always the best thing to do, and sometimes the best thing to do isn't always the right thing to do. Getting back to this situation we want to resolve that we thought about when we were meditating, what can I do to resolve it? What's the resolution? I could do this, this, and this. Then we think it through. We analyze it. Well, if I do this, this might happen. If I do this, that might happen. And you may even, at that time, look at one of those options and say, well, I tried that once before, it didn't work well. You went into your memory. You went into your memory. You got an idea how it might turn out. Or you just leave it go. You allow things to continue, because there's nothing you could do about it. That's the other side. There's nothing you could do about it. Your amount of grace, Grace, in this situation will have a great impact. As I said, you might say, well, then how do I proceed from there? What do I do after this meditation? Whether you came up with a resolution or you didn't, the resolution is to do something, or there is no resolution at this time. You just allow things to happen. You move through the rest of the day gracefully, with grace. What is grace? And I forgot my reading glasses. Having or showing grace means to be beautiful in form, beautiful in manner, and beautiful in movement. Grace means beauty of form, movement or manner, pleasing or agreeable quality, good will. Charm, ease, elegance, kindness. Charm, ease, elegance, kindness. So we move through the day with charm, ease, elegance, kindness, grace. Grace is like the yeast in that recipe for making bread. It's very important. It has a rising effect. And so, when you've concluded your period of meditation and you've decided, here's a few options, this is the best one, or I just let it go, allow it to happen, you move through the rest of the day gracefully, with ease. With ease. Getting back to, it's obvious we can bring up a child. There's no book on it. Some things are just common sense, how to bring up a child. And then when we get to this point in our lives where we want to, let's say, get out of the matrix. Let's say, move away from nonsense, drama. That's the point where we begin to realize there are things we can do, and there are things we just allow to happen. We don't force it. If you comprehend these two dimensions, when to do something, when to allow something to happen. In our times, if you're the type of person who can go through the day gracefully, people aren't going to understand you. They're not going to understand how you do that. They're not going to understand, why aren't you forcing something to happen? Grace. It's grace. I'll read it to you again. This is graceful. Having or showing grace. Beautiful in form, beautiful in manner, beautiful in movement. Grace. A pleasing or agreeable quality. Charm, ease, elegance. Kindness, kindness. When we talk about memories, the title of this video, if we didn't have memories, we wouldn't know we're here. Why is it at times that we're able to bring into the mind good memories, happy memories, and it lifts our spirits, okay? There's that side. And then there are other times when, through memory, something happens, and then we go and think of all the other things in our lives that have happened that didn't have a happy outcome. So we could go to those two items. When we are graceful, okay, when we are graceful, we are able to bring into memory past situations that were similar to the one we're looking for a resolution now. We could look at past situations and say, oh, I tried that a couple of times, that wasn't a good idea. That worked before. In your memory, you're thinking this, that worked before. I was in a similar situation one time and forced this to happen. That was a bad outcome. I was in a similar situation one time, couldn't do anything about it. I allowed it to happen the way it was, and the outcome was favorable. Grace, kindness, grace, kindness, grace, kindness, movement, manner, a graceful manner, a graceful movement. If you don't have patience and discipline, if you don't have some spiritual principles, spiritual ways to follow, you'll always be guessing. You may think, well, it doesn't matter. I don't have any luck anyway. I don't want to deal with that person. I know how they are. All these things. It doesn't matter which one of them it is. We want to move through it gracefully, with kindness. Kind movement, calm movement, kind manners, calm manners. Move through it gracefully. Know when to do and know when to allow something to just happen. Have you ever been humiliated? Have you ever done something or said something and then been humiliated? If you're over 20, you should be mature enough to know let me put it this way. If you're over 20, a sign of maturity is to know when to do something and when to allow something to happen. Going back to that serenity prayer. And the wisdom to know the difference. the wisdom to know if I force something to happen because I analyzed it, critical thinking. If I do that, I did that once before and I was humiliated. Or I just understood I couldn't do anything about it and allowed it to happen. And then your friends and family will think there's something wrong with you because you're not having an overreaction to it, okay? You're not having an overreaction. You're not whining. You're not complaining. You're not going nuclear. Because, like baking that bread, part of the process is to do a few things. Part of that process is to allow things to happen. But getting back to humility. I've learned enough that there are times I should just keep my mouth shut. I learned enough that there are times I just need to calm down and relax. But there's an interference pattern here. There's an interference pattern involved in that process. Should I do something? Should I just allow this to happen? It has to do with memories. It has to do with bad habits. It has to do with our character, our personality. Remember now, you made a decision. You want to get out of the matrix. You want to calm down. You want to stop the nonsense, get away from the drama. And you made this decision, okay? If you don't understand, there's a series of reactions to things that are repetitious, bad habits, so to speak. It boils down to our personality, our character. And I mentioned before, I've learned from that program, the 12-step program, I took that course. We have character defects and we have shortcomings. But you're here at this point right now, and you want to change. You don't want to do something that you'll be humiliated by, and you don't understand totally the concept of allowing something. Just allow things to happen. When you can't do something about it, just allow things to happen. This book is the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book. That's what it's called, from the 12-step program. And I want to read this from step 5 in this book. Step 5 is going to someone with our 3 lists from step 4. Our resentments, who we're angry at, why we're angry at them, how it affected our life. The second list we made was our fears. And the third list we made was our sex conduct, okay? Resentments and anger at people, places, and things. Our fears, our sex conduct, okay? Maybe you've been humiliated quite a few times in those 3 areas. So on page 58, another great dividend we may expect from confiding our defects to another human being is humility, a word often misunderstood. And our defects have to do with those constant resentments and anger at people, places, and things. Our defects have to do with fear of things that won't happen, fear of the unknown, and the sex conduct. Another great dividend we may expect from confiding our defects to another human being is humility, a word often misunderstood. To those who have made progress in AA, it amounts to humility, a clear recognition of what and who we really are, followed by a sincere attempt to become what we could be. Therefore, our first practical move toward humility must consist of recognizing our deficiencies. No defect can be corrected unless we clearly see what it is. No defect can be corrected unless we clearly see what it is. I mentioned this before. It's a fact. People don't like to look at themselves. You know, self-examination. Who wants to admit they're wrong or they made a mistake? No defect can be corrected unless we clearly see what it is, but we shall have to do more than see. The objective look at ourselves we achieved in step 4, after all, was only a look. We looked at ourselves, those 3 surveys we did: anger at people, places, and things, resentments, fear, sex conduct. The objective look at ourselves we achieved in step 4 was, after all, only a look. All of us saw, for example, that we lacked honesty and tolerance, that we were beset at times by attacks of self-pity or delusions of personal grandeur. But while this was a humiliating experience, it didn't necessarily mean that we had yet acquired, excuse me, but while this was a humiliating experience, it didn't necessarily mean that we had yet acquired much actual humility. Therefore, though now recognized, our defects were still there. Something had to be done about these defects, character defects, shortcomings. Something had to be done about them, and we soon found that we could not wish or will them away by ourselves. These character defects are shortcomings, and we soon found that we could not wish or will them away by ourselves. Now, I don't say this derogatory, I don't say this sarcastically, okay? People are waiting for God to do something for them. They're waiting for God to do something for them. They're waiting for other people to do something for them.